Hi, my name's Todd Adest. I am the SVP of Sales and Services at adMarketplace, a paid search firm. I'm joined today by Jenna Lebel from Liberty Mutual. Jenna, if you could please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jenna Lebel, Chief Marketing Officer at Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Jenna, you've been with the firm now for over 10 years. What do you attribute the longevity to?
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought it was going to be a layover, ended up being 10 years, but I think insurance is just so interesting, and I maybe didn't realize that as an outsider, but as a marketer, I mean, it's just a super challenging category, right? Like, you don't have a tangible product, it's a commoditized category, it's a highly competitive, high-spend category, it's a need-based product required by law. You don't want to have insurance, and it's something you pay for and hope to never use, and so there's just so many unique challenges within that, and it's been a fun journey. The work's not done yet. We've had a lot of great successes, but there's still a lot of work ahead of us.
Yeah, so you talk about some of the big challenges, and they are substantial, and especially today with inflation, recession, everything that happened with COVID, natural disasters. How have you folks really adapted and coped with what's going on in the market?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of pressure on our business right now. You mentioned a few of the trends, but, inflation is putting pressure on our business. The cost to repair a home, replace a car is just much higher than it once was. Weather events are at an all-time high. It's like every other day you're hearing of some major catastrophe happening across the country. And so it's putting a lot of pressure on our business. Our marketing is charged with driving profitable new business growth, of course, but it's forced us to pull back a little bit on growth and, focus a little bit more on building the brand for the long term when we're ready to, turn the growth engine back on. Certainly a challenging environment, but, we've been around over 100 years. We've sort of seen it all at this point. And so I feel confident that we'll get through this chapter too.
All right. So being around for over 100 years, absolutely amazing, fantastic. There are obviously some really big competitors out there. So, how do you as a CMO think about differentiation? How do you really stand above the crowd, and how do you enter into that consideration set when a consumer is in the market for insurance?
Yeah, so, if you rewind maybe 5-6 years ago, I think we were one of the only carriers in the category that didn't have, all of the brand cues you see from all of the insurance companies, like jingles, like, branded characters and mascots, taglines, et cetera. And, when you don't have a tangible product, you need to rely on those things to keep the brand top of mind. And so we went on a journey of developing our own spokes duo, Limu, Emu, and Doug. And it was challenging, right? Because it's not a white space, right? There's a lot of clutter in that area, right? Like, everyone has their own version of a mascot or character, and so we had to do it in a unique way. And I think the combo of having two characters, having them be this like kind of buddy duo, where it's like one part expected, like that trope, you've seen it all the time, and then like this one part of like just surprise and unexpected of like a flightless bird who doesn't speak and doesn't really have a strong role, has been really interesting to see, like how that's just been embraced by consumers and in pop culture. And the campaign's turning 5 years old in February, and we've already been on SNL twice, and there's hundreds and hundreds of Halloween costumes, and we've been on Jeopardy and New York Times crossword puzzles, and just like the amount of positive reception to the campaign has been somewhat surprising. So I feel like maybe we got it right, and we found a sweet spot in the cluttered category.
You definitely got it right, and I'm not going to lie, I'm a little disappointed. Both Doug and Limo are not here.
Next time.
Inquiring minds want to know, based on the last campaign, will Doug survive?
Yeah, so we actually brought back one of our fan favorite characters from our other campaign, the Liberty Bibberty guy, the bad actor who can't get his lines correct. And we did a crossover spot. And that was really because it was such a hit. It was like one of our best performing ads of all time. The guy became like an internet sensation. Even talking to him, he's like, I get recognized everywhere for that one ad. And so we knew that it was a special spot, and there was something magical about him and that character. And so we brought him back for a crossover spot with Limu, Emu, and Doug. That's in market now. And I think, what's next for the campaign and for the characters, I think you'll start to see us introduce more characters, sort of dimensionalize them, share a little bit more about their background, their family, people they work with. We'll put them in different settings. We've already started to do that. Like we've had them bowling, we've had them at a barbecue at home, we've had them in the office, but we'll continue to explore different scenarios and hopefully funny scenarios where they can, emerge.
I love it. So first off, I must get bonus points for making the CMO of Liberty Mutual say Liberty Bibberty. So I will take those points where I can get them. You had mentioned earlier about really honing in on not necessarily growth this year, but in long-term value, that return on spend when it comes to that lifetime value. So when you're thinking about those strategies, obviously there are multiple internal parties and stakeholders that need to agree with that strategy. So talk to me about when you were working with your CEO, when you're working with your CFO, what does that conversation look like when you're talking about the marketing budget and what your goals are for the year?
Yeah, it's super, super collaborative, and there are a lot of folks involved, as you mentioned. We're working with finance, in terms of like how much capital do we have to invest in marketing. We're working with our analytics partners to look at what's the return on what we've spent to date and what are we seeing there. We're working with product to say, like, what's our appetite to grow in certain states. Our business is very state-driven too, so we're factoring that in. And we're just working with a lot of different folks across the org to land on, like, what is our appetite for growth? Where do we want to grow if we're growing, like, because we are so state-driven? And then we're relying on the in-house measurement we have to allocate the budget according to what we know is going to give us a good return for the dollar.
So when you say what we know, you've been with the company now for more than 10 years. What has really surprised you? What has gone against conventional wisdom, against all common sense? And you're like, there's no explanation for this, but this is a phenomenon that we need to deal with.
TikTok.
Oh, all right.
It's funny. We're present on all social channels and social platforms, and we have been. And I maybe underestimated TikTok, I think, of just like how much of a sensation that became, how quickly it did. And I think it obviously benefited from everyone at home during the pandemic, making videos and stuff like that. But, when it initially kind of came onto the scene, I sort of dismissed it of like, that'll be like, just like a trend, a quick trend, and people will move on and go back to sort of the tried and true platform. So I think I maybe missed that, and we've been on TikTok for a while, and we're figuring out like how to make Limu and Doug relevant on the platform, and it's been a fun journey. But I think initially I maybe didn't see that as big of a trend as it was.
Gotcha. So when you're talking about TikTok, when you're talking about the television commercials, when you're talking about sponsorships of events and all of that good stuff, there's obviously the branding and awareness play that comes into the consideration set within that consumer journey. And then you've got to actually have people fill out, forms and register and apply and do all of that good stuff. How are you connecting the dots between, the branding and I guess the performance side of things?
Yeah, so, we're a direct-to-consumer insurance company, and so we know because the category is so commoditized, consumers are shopping, call it 3-ish brands when they're in the market for insurance. It's always the top 3 that come to mind first, so that top-of-mind unaided awareness is critical, and so when we're spending in brand, that's what we're driving, that's the objective. And then, of course, you're right, we do need to, we're on the hook to drive profitable new business growth, too, so we're always balancing those two things. And the breakdown we've had for the last couple of years has been 60% on brand. It's a long-term investment. We know we're going to benefit from it in the future. Someone who sees our TV ad today may not be in market, but maybe in 6, 10, 12 months they will be. And we know it's, critical for our success in the future. On the acquisition side or performance side, we do need to bring in policies today. And so we're targeting, high intent in-market shoppers across a variety of tactics. We rely pretty heavily on direct mail, email, paid search, aggregators in our business. It's kind of like the kayak.com of insurance. Sure. And those are, places where we know someone is in market for insurance, and we want to make sure we capture that lead.
Yeah, so you mentioned a couple of different mediums where there's no secret. We've got some walled gardens.
Yeah.
Folks who are packaging, they are really siphoning down their transparency. They're self-measuring and providing you with how they did. What are your thoughts on those guys? What do you think is going to happen? I know we've got a big antitrust suit going on right now. What are your thoughts around all of this stuff?
Yeah, I think as a marketer, it makes our job a little bit tougher, right? Just because there are so many different platforms and partners that we're working with, and they all have different measurement capabilities, different data access and availability, and that just makes our job a little bit tougher. But we've been partnering with the walled gardens, as you referenced, to try to get as much data as we can and start to triangulate that with what we see on our end to make up for some of it. But it certainly presents challenges, and I don't know if we'll see that go away in the future. I mean, it would be ideal from our end, but I don't know. I don't know if we'll see a future like that. I think it might be challenging for a little bit. I think it'll continue to be fragmented, especially in the video space too. But I'm cautiously optimistic, I guess.
All right, I love that. So, there's another. It's been a hot topic for quite some time: consumer privacy. And clearly, the insurance category has tons of regulations that you need to follow. How challenging is it to be a marketer, do what you do on a daily basis, and abide by all of those rules?
Yeah, I mean, insurance, highly regulated category. I would say legal is our best friend. We have a pretty good process in place where we have a review process for all of our creative materials. So everything from a TV ad all the way to a social post that gets reviewed by legal compliance. We actually even go further and have reviews by PR and our DEI office just to make sure that we are a challenger brand in this category. We are outspent. And so we can't afford to sort of make a mistake and put something out there that we have to pull back. So we almost sort of over review things just to make sure that, whatever we're putting out there is going to be impactful for us and is not going to result in us, taking it down or anything like that. Love it.
So, a lot of the conversation around Liberty Mutual is obviously around your creative, around the assets that you've developed. It's also a brand that has really put the flag in the ground and said, we are going to in-house pretty much everything that we do. So you've been with the company now from the beginning of that time. So, how has that decision really fueled growth? How has that really transpired over time? And is that something that you still firmly believe in?
Yeah, we've had a lot of success with insourcing. It's been a journey. So we started probably almost 8 to 10 years ago, and we started with creative and digital media buying, and we slowly, brought a lot of that in-house. It was critical that we had the expertise in-house, which presented some challenges on its own. It was critical that we had, the right structure, especially on the creative side, to be able to continue to absorb that work. At the time, having the creative done in-house was at half the cost of having it done by an external agency, and we continue to track that today of what is the cost avoidance of doing this work in-house and not paying the premium that you'd pay for a top tier agency. Having said that, today we've insourced 85% of our creative, all of our digital media buying, and actually all of our media buying except TV and direct mail. And then we have a creative agency who manages Limu, Emu, and Doug. But we still see a ton of value, right? You can't be too insular, right? If you insource it all, you run the risk that maybe you're too narrow in your thinking and don't have that perspective, and you're not staying on top of maybe best practices and trends and stuff like that. So we're really mindful of that. So we'll always work with external partners and agencies because there is value there. I think we just, especially on the media buying side, we found value in having that data closer to home, being able to make decisions quicker. On the creative side, it was largely the efficiency play of like being able to get that work done faster and more cost effectively.
So let's talk about that. The efficiency, the cost effectiveness. You know where I'm going to go with this one. Right now, probably the hottest item in the world is artificial intelligence and machine learning. So, tell me what you think about the impact that artificial intelligence is going to have on your company. We've seen an influx of companies really honing in on the internal optimizations and efficiencies and the consumer journey. Yep. So, talk to me broadly without providing any trade secrets on how you folks are really approaching artificial intelligence and machine learning.
This wouldn't be a marketing interview if we didn't talk about this, right?
Sure.
No, I think you're right. I think there are like sort of two camps, right? You have your efficiency play, and then you have your CX play, and we're dabbling in both of those. I think, we're looking at like how we can use the technology for media optimizations, for creative efficiencies. We've been doing even copy testing, subject line testing in email, leveraging the technology. And then I would say in our broader business, like there's wide applicability as you think about handling claims and service inquiries and all of that. Like there's a lot of application for us. I think it's going to be game changer. I think it already is a game changer. It'll just be sort of striking the right balance of how much you rely on that versus like, human touch, and how can it augment things that exist today and not necessarily replace, but just enhance. And so I think it'll be fun to watch over the next couple of years just because it has been so accelerated already. And sure. I think it's just going to continue to unfold at a fast clip.
I love it. So, I want to also focus on some of the fun stuff that you guys have done. So, this past summer, the Barbie movie came out, and all of a sudden, everybody got so excited because all of these brands were jumping in the Barbie ship. This is something that Liberty Mutual has been doing for quite some time. So, talk to me about the movie integrations. You talked already about the pop culture references. So, how big of an impact have those things had on the business? Yeah,
so we've done two already. We did a partnership with Spider-Man at the end of 2021, and then we did a partnership with the Minions franchise in 2022. We have one more in the works for next year. They've been hugely, impactful for us because, we're able to leverage these iconic characters and these iconic film franchises in our ads in exchange for promoting the film for 3 seconds at the end of our spots. So if you think about it, we're going to run a Limu and Doug ad anyways. So we're basically making a bet that running a Limu and Doug ad with Spider-Man is going to break through a little bit more than just a Limu and Doug ad at the office, right? So it's been an interesting space for us to continue to learn, but so far it's been very effective, and I think we'll continue to do it. Obviously, striking the right partnership, making sure it's a fit for the brand, and like for the ones we've done so far, you sort of don't even have to see the movie to know who those characters are, and that's sort of what we were going for.
So you're saying that the movie integration with Spider-Man was sticky. All right, sorry, I had to do it. All right, so you're off the hot seat for now, but certainly I want to understand from you, you've been doing this for a while. Your team is wildly successful and all in-house. So talk to me about the characteristics that you're looking for when you interview candidates, when you bring in teammates. What kind of culture exists in Liberty Mutual that you're looking for to source from, the external folks?
Yeah, so I think looking for a few things. I would say highly motivated, driven. I call them hand raisers, like the people that are going to be proactive and not have to be asked to do something, but just raise their hand, volunteer, that kind of thing. Highly collaborative. There's not one thing you can get done at a big organization like ours with just one person. So really looking for those relationship skills, the ability to navigate the org, build trust, et cetera. Intellectual curiosity, right? Like people who are going to want to learn, want to question the status quo, want to bring a perspective, just be generally inquisitive. And then track record of success. And then recently looking for folks who have maybe had exposure to some really admired brands that can help bring some of that thinking to help elevate our brand.
So let's talk about some of those admired brands, because as a CMO, you've got to be a fan of some other brands that you feel are really doing it right today? So who do you think are the brands that are really doing it in an incredible way?
So I won't speak on the category, although I do have a few I admire there. But, I think it depends what you're looking for. Like, I think it's been interesting to see some of the disruptor brands, I would say, like Burger King, for example. Like, I think Skittles for a while was sort of a disruptor in that category. And then I think there are some brands that just do customer experience really well. Like I would put Chewy in that bucket. And so it sort of depends what you're evaluating, but there are a lot of brands doing just really interesting things and sort of pieces of it that I think could, bring a lot to our brand. And so just, making sure that any folks that we're bringing in, they have some experience that might be different than just straight insurance marketing, right? Because I think we have a lot of insurance marketers here, but there are adjacent categories or even categories that are really, far away from insurance that I think we can learn a lot from.
Love it. So when we talk about learning, we talk about growing. I have to imagine you're going to have some college students, some PhD students, some business school students who are doing case studies on Liberty Mutual in school. And they're going to be watching this video. They're looking for more information. So if you were to provide advice to some of those folks, people just entering into the industry, what kind of advice would you bestow on them?
I think the best piece of advice I could give someone entering marketing would be to work at an agency to start. And the reason I say that, I have that background. I know a lot of people on the team have had that background, but it gives you exposure to a lot in a short period of time. So you get to work on different brands, different categories, and you can sort of determine what you like or maybe what you don't like. And then I think it makes making the jump over to a brand once you kind of understand where you want to be a lot easier. So I would say try a bunch of stuff, but if you can, I think an agency experience at least sets you up really well for the future because you have a lot more insight into what you might like and what you might not.
Gotcha. Jenna, you've been amazing. Is there anything that you want to capture that we haven't discussed already?
Well, I'm not going to sing the jingle, but no, I think, 100-year-old brand, it's been awesome, just to see the evolution over the last 10 years. We've been the fastest growing we've had the fastest growing unaided awareness growth in the category. Limu and Doug turn 5 next year. It feels like they've been around for much, much longer. And so I'm excited to see where the next chapter for the brand, goes. And I think you'll start to see a lot more of us, if I look back on the last 10 years, we sort of put Liberty on the map. Like you said, planted the flag. And now I think it's more about how do you dimensionalize the brand? How do you put more meaning behind it? And so not just having people know Liberty, but having them think something, feel something about the brand and the experience they have with it.
Because it's not what you tell them, it's how you make them feel.
Exactly.
Jenna, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.